someone that we can go to if we're unsure about something, but also know that we're confident in the other's decision no matter what. So it's a lot of trust in. So I would envision, aside from the external things that the Vice President would be doing, really between he and I, a lot of trust in knowing that the other is going to be making their decisions, that if we need some help on something, then you can ask. And so with Jeremy being at the pharmacy school, I think that that's another plus, having someone where, none of us are students at the pharmacy school, we don't have ties there, and that's another way to make sure that you're really bringing in students from a diverse set of schools, aside from just the regular council meetings and going to those and engaging with students. It's an asset, and I really like to focus on that aspect as well.
Awesome. So Jeremy's going to be key in my administration 2 ways. I met with him, and we scheduled an hour and ended up talking for like 2.5 hours. He's an amazing human being. He's very thoughtful and interested in what you're saying, so you can just kind of keep. And obviously, I can talk for days. So it was a really fruitful conversation. I tend to be, as I've explained, an ambitious leader, somebody who says, let's shoot for the moon and see what happens. It is nice to have somebody who's at your side who can say, whoa, buddy, let's think about this, 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 and this. And I'm like, yeah, okay, let's do that too. And just to kind of reel you back in a little bit, but another great thing that you mentioned was the pharmacy school. Their governance is remarkable. Like, you go to the pharmacy college board, and Sonia was there too. They all had little microphones. They had a PowerPoint up where they were doing a live Google form. They caucused. I was just like, oh, they were amending bylaws. I was like, yes, you guys, I was really excited about that. So we're going to engage Jeremy in making sure that he gets all of those leaders in the pharmacy school able to spread the best practices to PSG, because I think there are some just core, easy governance issues that we could resolve with PSG, and especially going to that constitutional convention, he's going to be a key player in that.
For discussion, if you so choose.
Just what are some of those things you'd like to see from PSG?
So one thing that I think they did well is it looked like they had non-voting representatives on site. I understand it's a capacity ask, but I'm interested in it. Just to expand the feeling of the room, to have more people there, just to have more people to bounce ideas off of. And then I also think that they had a really good amendment process for updating what was going on. One of the problems with the PSG Constitution is you've encountered, just like me, is there's a bunch of vestigial language in there. You're like, I don't know why we even are talking about that necessarily. And we need to be way more adaptive, because a lot of the things that you've discovered around professional students that aren't represented by councils and things like that, we need to be able to react to those issues. I'm talking next meeting, right? And so I think the pharmacy school did seem to have a good grasp on how to just continue to update. What did you see?
I think the biggest thing I saw is that a lot of the reason they had that is because they were communicating with the booth. So that would be the other huge thing that I'd like to bring in.
Yep.
Kind of an infrastructure issue, but we've struggled to have a room that really allows participation from the Duluth campus. And we do have PSG students and PSG reps on the Duluth campus.
Yep.
And the medical school as well. So
Yeah.
medical school and pharmacy have, I know that the fall Duluth Day that is organized, I think figuring out ways like that where you bring students down here to engage the students is a whole other addition to the PSG reps.
True.
Awesome. Our next question. Alana, I believe, is taking this one first. What would you do to ensure you are addressing issues that matter to a majority of the professional student body, rather than focusing on your own personal initiatives?
So continuing to talk with professional students, making sure to be at those council meetings, have regular meetings throughout the year with each council, and also though developing a way to hear from students aside at each school, aside from just those who are on the council. I mean, ideally the council is kind of bringing in all the interests of the respective schools and presenting those, but I think it's also important to talk directly with students who are on our respective schools council. And I will say it's interesting, and we talked a little bit about this, but making sure that you're doing things that the majority wants, but not forgetting those who are not in the majority and the interests that they have, the interests that kind of, that do have an impact on the student body overall, but maybe most visibly affect a minority group of students. So whether that's on race issues, whether that's on sexual assault, whether that's on things affecting people who have families, professional students who have families, kids. They may not be in the majority, but the issues that they're dealing with that we could work on within PSG are extremely important. So I think it's making sure that you're tied into what everyone's interested in and not just you, but that doesn't necessarily mean what only the majority is interested in. So talking to folks and equal it up.
Yes. So I believe leadership is a form of service, especially public service, obviously, it's in the name, guys, right? And one of the things that I've done and decided to do with this campaign is just up the ante, go as hard as we can, right? And go out and visit every single student council that makes up PSG. The only one I haven't gotten to is the Minnesota nurses because, or the Master nurses, excuse me, because they're reforming their council. But I've kind of visited all the councils. Inevitably, when you talk to these councils, somebody raises their hand and asks the key question, which is, what are you going to do for me? Right? The like, real, what exactly do you want to do? And obviously, I'm a vision person, as I've described, but I think what's more important for us to understand is what folks are going to do for each other. So what I've seen PSG come forward with grants and proposals, they're these incredible things. It's like it Give Kids a Smile Day. It's for underprivileged kids, and dentists are going to go out in the community and make sure that kids have the ability to be proud of their teeth. That's an incredible thing that we're going to do together, right? And so I think it's fairly easy to avoid my own priorities. I don't even know that I necessarily have some outside of just making sure all these awesome people get to do all the awesome stuff.
I think one of the big things is taking time to make thoughtful decisions and moving forward in a thoughtful manner so that you have that time to reach out to councils and get feedback, so you have time to ask people who are specifically affected by an issue. The child care has been a hot issue on campus right now. Getting time to go around and ask for feedback specifically from student parents. And then I think another really big focus, and Mike talked about the service aspect. One of the things that I would like to do is get in front of every single first-year professional student in the fall, and just for 5 minutes to put a face on PSG, make sure they know that there's somebody who's looking to listen and to find out what things are running the berries within their program. And another thing I'd like to roll out is the process of meeting with the PSG reps has been really great. I, as president, would also like to roll out a council president meeting once a semester, where we're sitting down with the presidents of the councils, partially because a lot of programs have first-year students as the PSG reps. It's a really great learning experience for them, but usually the council presidents have been there longer, have a better idea of the issues that are going on within the program.
Want to discuss? What do you think?
I think that's a great idea, the council president meeting. Especially because, the academy, I just hope that this campaign isn't the end of it.
Yeah.
Once we vote, that it doesn't stop the proactive outreach and going out and meeting folks.
Yeah.
And so getting in front of students, I think, is obviously key. What would you say to them?
I think some of it, again, like looking to meet them where they're at, introducing yourself, letting them know what the PSG has to offer, and really I see that as being it's a resource to enhance the student life, to enhance their well-being, and ultimately enhance their careers. And it does that through providing grants and options for advocacy. You can build repeated tie-in by reminding them that they'll be electing PSG reps for their own program, and also that PSG will be reaching out for ambassadors for professional students. So if there's a specific area they're interested in, like health insurance, there's a seat for a professional student on the board that looks at the student health care plan. And I guess another thing I just want to do is shout out for, because I think it's something we all kind of worked on in our own ways, is you talked about how not wanting stuff to end after the campaign.
Yeah.
I think, looking for, originally this campaign, you had to be on a joint ticket. I think that was a barrier for people to enter, and getting it to separate tickets, I think did a lot to create a campaign that integrates and reaches out more to the councils instead of just having a single, a non-contested election.
Yeah, I've really loved how we've been able to exchange ideas, and I think that just the process of campaigning has been really fruitful in terms of what we're going to be able to do
Awesome. Where did you
I was just, when you talk about having a meeting with the President's Speech Council, I think that's an awesome idea, and having, I don't know, there are some, for example, there's a medical legal partnership clinic that involves medical school, dental school, school of pharmacy, law school, and others, and it's focused on subject area, and students from each school go to that, so it's not necessarily focused on the councils, but thinking of ways that we can have service-related events, and now that's a very kind of formal structure, but thinking of other like informal ways, just kind of beyond social events, beyond these formal meetings, but service-oriented things that are topic-based and kind of tie in the professional focuses of everyone. And maybe that would make it easier to kind of deal with that low capacity,
Yeah.
high ability issue.
Feel good on a Sunday, helps come out.
Yeah.
And meet a bunch of cool people.
Yeah.
Very true.
Awesome. Well, that's all the questions that we have prepared. So we'll move to the section where we take questions from the audience. If anyone wants to submit a question, you can either write down on a piece of paper and bring it up, or anyone knows how to get it. We do have one question already from Timothy C. He is actually a PhD student in CLA, so I'm not entirely sure if he's a graduate student or a professional student, but I think his question is still relevant nonetheless. People, some people go into professional school straight out of undergrad. Others go out into the workforce and then come back to school or go back to school for a professional degree. What would you do to help support those people who have gone into the workforce and then decide to go back to school? They maybe have more responsibilities, maybe they have a family, maybe they're working while they're getting their degree. How would you go about supporting that? So, and we'll start with
So I'm one of those people. I have a part-time job, I got a family, I'm doing this thing, I got the full-time school, yeah, and it's bonkers thinking about all of that. And I'm fortunate because I'm going to be able to go speak to we have a Master of Public Affairs degree that it's older students who are coming back just to complete a year to get a master's degree. And I know there are other programs like that. The other thing you'll notice is that the primary time that we all show up and that we're all not available incidentally is night classes. A lot of people do, but I know I take 2 night classes. And so when we think about a system of grants and governance and all this great stuff that PSG does that serves people who are on campus primarily, we're disenfranchising a lot of people who need the ability to speak for themselves and engage in the process. And I think that just in general, tying that student body together is going to take somebody who both understands either side of that spectrum. So I've been somebody who's been a full-time student, but then I've also been, like I'm currently now, spread thin. And so I think that having a leader, I think we all are probably going to fit into that category, who just understands the different responsibilities and what you have to do. I think that service day leadership is a great example of something where I could participate, and I know probably somebody on campus could participate as well.
So coming from the business school, we actually have an admissions requirement that will have 5 years of work experience before coming to school. So when you talked about how do I make sure I'm just not pursuing my own initiatives, one of the concerns I have is not recognizing the issues for people coming right out of undergrad. I actually spent a lot of time thinking about how the university is set up for, what is it that MSA might be advocating for that's leading people who are most likely commuting from campus, most likely are a higher chance of being parents. How are they going underserved? Some of the big things I've identified is one is being supportive of parents. I mentioned this, whether it's on-campus childcare for the ones who need or for who that works out the best. The other is a grant program. I've talked to several parents who have said they've got a great childcare facility right next door. Their spouse can help in dropping the children off. They wouldn't want something on campus. And so to make sure that we're meeting those students where they are and what needs they have. Additionally, one of the things that comes up from, especially from West Bank, is that the rec centers are very much located in one area, and that's a barrier for participating. Through student service fees, we contribute about $70 a year towards the rec center, yet most people have their own private centers, so looking to make things more accessible so people are getting the full value for what they put in.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I think it's something that each school deals with to a varying extent, but it certainly does continue across each school. And I think because of that, though, I mean, I've seen differences at least in how each school chooses to support students who are older, who have taken more time off. Humphrey just had a specific career services event that was focused on people who had been out of school for 8 years before coming back. And I hadn't seen many things like that. Now, whether or not you should have a hard and fast limit, that could be up for debate, but something in general that's targeted toward that population, I think, is important. So both on the career side, but also on the social side of things, on the community building side of things. So the way you accomplish that is being sensitive to scheduling and to times. I mean, you don't have things in the evening, especially if you have people who are working full time and taking classes in the evening. When can you realistically schedule things? And then also just, I think it helps to create community across the different professional schools in that. I think it's important for a lot of reasons, but some schools have smaller populations of students who have spent more time out of school, and so being able to connect them, not just within each school, but across schools, I think can help build that community.
For discussion.
How do you deal with it?
So, I don't know, my partners here, and it's been awesome, and just kind of understanding, but, it would, in terms of thinking of what would make it easier for me, I think having a rec center on this side or something would be great. Not to be fair, there are professional schools that are on the other side and have that, but really making those opportunities available here, whether or not we have the capacity to build a full rec center here in the near term, that may not be realistic, but what can we do to make it easier? I think that even just having community with people who have been out for a while is important. Though I've also in some ways appreciated getting to know people who have gone right through. Sometimes it's a little frustrating sometimes, and it depends on the person, but I think that it shouldn't just be, all right, how do you build community among students who have been out for a while, and how do you build community among students who have gone right through? Having those spaces, but also having room to interact with each other and learn from each other. There are perspectives that I've kind of lost sight of with just kind of that, you go through school and you're just so focused on school, you forget that real world exists, and there are benefits to that. And there are things that we could all teach people who have gone straight through and not work. So,
Yes,
yeah.
that's true.
And what about you?
I went to college for 10 years, so I didn't, I started full time, but then I ended up working, and it was actually community school that really inspired me to love university systems and how we educate people, because there are people who come from every strata at, community college. They're the most amazing places on earth. And I found that community here too, where you say, where it's different groups of people. And the primary thing I do to deal with time management and all that is try, like I've been saying, is keep your values at heart of why you're here. I feel pride every time I walk into Humphrey School Public Affairs. I think this is an amazing place, Hubert Humphrey happens to be a hero of mine, so I think that so long as it's an act of love, it doesn't feel like it's something that's really burdensome.
I would be curious a little bit to hear your thoughts on career services for people who go straight through versus people who had time out, and if they're, if it's the same career services, if it's different career services, and if it's provided at your school.
So I mentioned the Humphrey example, and I don't know how much of a regular effort that is. It's the first time that I saw anything about it. And I was, last year, even though I wasn't taking Humphrey classes, I was on all the Humphrey listservs because I almost started, so I've been getting all those emails for a while now. At the law school, I think that individual career counselors try to address it to some extent, but I haven't necessarily seen systematic supports that recognize the differences. And maybe Carlson is better with that.
Well, since our students are all the same,
Yeah.
it's more tracked towards having that. So I was curious.
It seems to be more like a set path that people who go straight through. There's actually some opportunity that I've seen, or they have like a single goal in mind. That's probably a generalization, but I think that it's almost more like there's more on the plate of career services with looking to help people who have done so much already.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's one of the core things that I think PSG, where all people are so focused on their professions and exactly what they're going to do, that the magical thing we can do is have little moments of connection with other professions to get different perspectives. So there's one thing that we do make the world a better place, it would be to expose people to different perspectives and build community. Dang it, we're out of time on that one.
So Noel or Noel G is wondering how the candidates can assure them. We are trying to figure out the right way of wording this. I guess how can you assure the student body who will be voting next week, the professional student body, of your commitment to racial justice, specifically, I guess specifically because this student is black, gay, and MBA and PP student. So I realize there's a lot there, but it's trying to
So, I'm going to address specifically about racial. Did he?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
because I can also speak to your representation. So, in terms of racial issues, and I really feel